Hi there. So I'm back after a few days of being away from our lovely city, Amsterdam. I was in Limburg on a self-retreat, and I spent there 5 days and then this weekend. Now, I'm back here, and glad to say hello to you. Well, as continuing this series of videos that I'm just making available for to all of you who follow Amsterdam Meets A Course in Miracles group and our page on Facebook with the same name, Amsterdam Meets A Course in Miracles. Um, I'm posting this video today in which, continuing on the basics and the fundamentals, I wanted to touch on an important, let's say, the foundational notion of this Course in Miracles. And one of them is the mind. We need to understand what is the mind, because the mind is spoken all through this course. And if we're coming from different backgrounds of seeking on or studying the truth, we may we may find a little bit conflictive ideas of what the mind is, because in other schools of thoughts, in other currents of spirituality, the mind is actually what we need to get rid of, what we need to dissolve. The mind is associated or equals the ego, the monkey mind, or the charter mind. All these notions and concepts as in other schools of thoughts, it is actually that which we need to get rid of to realize the essence of our true selves. Well, in the Course in Miracles, it is not the case. In the Course in Miracles, the mind is the following. From the chapter 3, section 5, mind is the domain of spirit. Spirit is a creation of God in His own image and likeness. So, this means that the mind, it is of like quality to spirit, and from the spirit it derives, since it has its like quality, it derives then the power or the ability to create or to make. Later we will talk about the difference between creation and making. Making can be equated to miscreation in the Course in Miracles. Alright, in the chapter 2, section 5 of the Course in Miracles, we can continue further and say, creation is our source. Creation is our source, and only mind can create. Therefore, if creation is our source and only mind can create, then mind is our source. Mind is our source of existence. Okay, we will continue. I'd like to also mention this, having established a little bit the notion of the mind. I will directly quote from the Course in Miracles and clarify one part. There is just a little detail with the mind, and in this it may resemble other teachings that we have studied or read, and that is that there is a part of the mind which believes it is separate or split. That is, along the Course in Miracles in different sections and passages, we become aware of the notion of the idea of the fragmentation, the split, the moment in which the falling for grace happened, in which the mind believed, the mind, the source of creation, the mind equal and like to spirit in its ability to create, believed wrongly that it was separated from its source, separated from spirit, split from spirit, separated from, therefore, from God. So, what is the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is a separated, it says in chapter 3, section 4, says the separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. Certainly, something which has become or has uh, grown into the belief that is separate, that is different from, separate, different than, or separate from, definitely it must be in conflict or out of accord with its source. That is the that is what gave, according to the Course in Miracles, this is what gave a room to the levels of perception, the comparisons, the degrees, aspects, and intervals in which we judge and we perceive everything outside of us and within us, the discrimination, the judgment. That is all the domain of the ego. And the ego is what rules or what believes it governs that part of the mind or the split mind. The consciousness, okay, pay attention here because again, this, please let us not, if we're studying the Course in Miracles, we need to be clear in concepts and certain ideas and notions that will not bring us confusion anytime we come across to any other teaching of truth or anything we are studying or we are drawn to in our path to awakening. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after separation. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. Okay? This is not the super consciousness or the cosmic consciousness or the Christ consciousness we hear. Okay? This is just merely the domain of the ego, what the Course in Miracles refers to in consciousness. Domain of the ego, part of the split mind. Consciousness as the domain of the ego. Okay, we're not talking of other concepts or notions like Christ consciousness or something like this. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify this part. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt. Why wrong? Because it comes from the separate or split mind. It is an attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather and as you are. Does that sound any familiar to you or heard something like that before? I'm sure you have. Okay, now having talked about the mind, I must say and remind that only the mind is capable to create, and only the mind is therefore or also is capable of error. But since the last time we talked of enlightenment, right? What is the Course in Miracles in its definition? We can touch on this part here. Chapter 2, section 5. Only the mind is capable of illumination. Okay, only the mind is capable of illumination. So the mind must be indeed a very powerful domain, instrument, or source, as we have been trying to clarify here. There is something that I wanted to touch on because many of you out there are familiar with this, and you know in new spirituality and or new age, new science, almost all over the place is present the so famous law of attraction. Okay, and since we're talking of the mind and its incredible ability to create, we need to touch base on this. I found on the Course in Miracles while studying it, and I wanted to share it with you. Listen to this. Well, let's put this in probably in a different video. so that we make this not so long. All right, so let's stop here and continue in a second part video.